Hello and welcome to the Today's Homeowner Weekly Podcast. We're here to help you with the challenges we all face as homeowners. I'm Danny Lipford.
And I'm Joe Truini. And each week, Danny and I are here on the podcast to answer any and all home improvement questions.
And we want to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments at todayshomeowner.com/podcast.
Okay, Danny, let's get started.
Today's Homeowner Podcast is brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. This week, we're going to offer a number of solutions to a homeowner that's having a lot of problem with a loud air conditioning system in their attic. There are a few things you can do to quieten it down.
Yeah, sometimes they can be loud enough to keep people awake at night. So and if you don't take care of that problem, sometimes the unit itself can wear out. So yeah, that's important to address as soon as possible. We're also going to talk to a homeowner who has excessive moisture under her house, a lot of moisture, and is causing all kinds of problems in the house. So we're going to offer some solutions for her.
Yeah, we get a lot of those calls about that excessive humidity, and boy, it can cause all kinds of problems. Plus, it's quite the welcome mat for any kind of insect and bug, and some of them can really destroy your home. You'll want to hear some of the suggestions that we have on there. Also, have you heard over the years, it's been out for quite a while, UV lights being integrated into your central heating and cooling system to kill viruses and to make the air inside your home healthier. Do they really work? What do you need to know about them? That's one of the things that we've explored before. We're going to share with you a few ideas on that.
And I've got a simple solution, a very timely simple solution on how to keep your safety glasses or your eyeglasses from fogging up when you're wearing a dust mask.
Boy, I love this idea because anybody that's been working with a dust mask, and hopefully you do use those a lot when you're doing anything that might have a little dust in the project that you're doing, and then you have your safety glasses on, and boy, they just seem to conflict. Joe's got a great solution so that won't happen to you ever again. Hey, this is always so much fun to be with you, so we're going to get started. Okay, let's go right to our phone lines. Larry is in Illinois. Larry, welcome to the Today's Homeowner Radio Show.
Hi, thank you. I've got a heat pump that the inside unit is in our attic above a couple bedrooms.
Uh-huh.
And every now and then it can get kind of loud when it runs. So I was just wondering, is there something that I could do to make that quieter? So,
okay.
It doesn't wake up the kids.
Okay. There's several things you can do. First of all, quietening down at the unit itself is probably not something you can do unless there's a bearing or some working part there that is starting to wear out. Then it will start making more and more noise. But a lot of the times the noise and the disruption that you have from a unit like this is because of vibration. And more air conditioning companies are suspending the unit actually from the rafters so that it has no connection necessarily to your ceiling joist that could cause the little bit of rattling like that. Now, have you put insulation under? Do you have insulation under it between the unit and the ceiling area?
Yes, we've got the blown-in insulation in that attic there, yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you, Joe. What do you think? Do you think the could lessen the transmission of this sound by using potentially some bat insulation there instead of the blown, like something more dense, like mineral wool or stone wool? Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, Larry. If you're gonna try to block some of this sound with insulation, rock wool or mineral wool is definitely the way to go. The other thing is, if this is making, you seem to indicate that it's making a lot of noise sometimes, but not every time it runs. Is that true?
Yes. It seems like it's on those really cold days or nights, and it kicks in like it's got an emergency heat or second heat.
Well, I've got a couple of suggestions. First, you really might want to just call in a HVAC technician, have him check this out just to make sure that the unit itself isn't damaged or wearing out. They could replace the fan or replace the motor. They don't have to replace the whole thing. Or if he says it's working fine, then the other two things I would suggest is, as Danny said, they could suspend it from the rafters. They make something called the vibration isolation dampeners, and these are essentially just thick rubber gaskets, for lack of a better word, that will help absorb some of the vibration and kill some of the sound. And then the other thing that works really well, they do make an item called the compressor sound blanket, and it's specifically designed for wrapping around the unit itself. It's kind of like, if you've ever seen those insulation blankets they put around water heaters, which are meant to hold in the heat. But in this case, these are specifically designed to deaden sound. Now, if this thing's rattling and grinding and making noise because the bearings are wearing out, there's no point in wrapping it up in a blanket because, it'll quiet it down, but it's not going to help the issue. So that's why I think the first order to business is to call in an HVAC technician and then say, okay, if the motor and the fan are fine, then what do you think about either the isolation dampeners or the sound blankets?
Okay. Sounds great.
I think one or more of those situations will definitely help quieten things down. You don't want a bunch of whiny kids waking them up at night like that. You want to make sure they get plenty of sleep, right, Larry?
That's right. That's right.
Hey, thanks so much for being with us, and I hope you and your family have a great weekend.
Thanks.
It's time for our best new product segment, brought to you by the Home Depot, How Doers Get More Done. Now, this is prime time for cookouts, and if you're in the market for a new gas grill, then here's what you'll need to know. This week, we're featuring the new Nexgrill 5-burner gas grill with side burner. It's crafted from polished stainless steel and porcelain-coated steel materials, and with 618 square inches of total cooking space, it's the right size to cook for small gatherings or large parties. It uses stainless steel burners, angled flame tamers, and enhanced grates that work together to distribute consistent heat across the entire cooking surface and to help you reduce those grill flare-ups that can completely ruin a nice cookout. Plus, the stainless steel shelves, side shelves, and the front condiment tray makes the grilling even more convenient. So for more information, and it's called the Nexgrill 5-burner gas grill, you log on to homedepot.com for more information and find out where you can get your brand new grill. Little problem Patricia is having. She's on the phone with us right now. Patricia, welcome to the show.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate it. We live in an older home. It's actually like 100 years old. We've lived there for 35 years. And the low part is 16 inches and the high part is 39 inches. Total, we have 7 vents, 12 by 24, and we have expanded metal on the sides. Now, we've had to replace one of the room or the floors, but my husband left the old floor joist in there. Does he need to take that out? Is one question. Or is it okay? It's still in there.
Yeah, it's probably just fine that it's still in there. As you know, if he was able to work around that, no problem at all for it to leave it in there. I wouldn't think it would present any problem at all.
Okay. And also, we have it underpinned with metal. Is that a problem, or is that, okay, too?
Not really, as long as you have cross ventilation there. I mean, you mentioned 7 vents. As long as they're, divided up around the house to where you're getting the ability for air to blow in and air to exhaust out from all of the different sides of the house, and certainly making sure no plants, shrubs, or anything are blocking any of those vents are extremely important as well.
Yes, sir. And our really thing, the humidity is really still high, but we do not have the fans, the cross fans that you're talking about.
Okay.
So we need to get them.
Well, I'm really speaking of the vents, not necessarily fans. Now, I will mention the fan, but the first thing, let me ask you this. Do you have plastic laying on the ground underneath the house?
We did, but it was not the 6 mil that you recommended, so that's going to be our next thing to do.
Yeah, good. Well, that right away will make a tremendous difference because there's so much moisture that just migrates up. You might not even know that it's migrating into your house, but when you're running your air conditioner or heater, it's pulling from everywhere it can to push air through your air handler unit. So that's why it's so important that you have all of the gaps around your house all sealed up. But the same for underneath the floor, because if you really get underneath your house with a bright light and look around carefully, there's a lot of holes there. There's holes where wires go up into your walls. There's underneath your bathtubs, you'll have some little gaps there where the drain has been cut out for. Things like this. As much of that as you can seal, and then putting the 6 mil plastic right on the ground, that right there usually solves a lot of moisture problems. But in situations, and also I must mention, you want to make sure no water is trending under there, like a downspout downspout that's not routed properly, or during a heavy rain, any area that's allowing water to trek under there, that needs to be repaired from the outside to curtail any of that water going under the house.
Okay. Now, on the plastic, does it matter if it's clear or black?
It doesn't matter. Either one works fine to block that moisture out. But with real severe situations like this, Patricia, I have used what I call a ring fan. It just looks like something you'd have on the front of your radiator on your car. But they're available that you mount it on the inside of one of your vents. You wire it up, and you put a humidistat on it and set it about 60%. So what happens is when the humidity does get up in that area underneath your house, it turns it on and it blows the air out of that vent. That creates a breeze throughout the underside of your house to move that moist air out of there. And it's automatic, so you don't have to worry about it. It's not that expensive, and that will be a good peace of mind for you to be able to minimize that moisture that's under the house.
Okay. I think that's all that I had.
Okay. Well, best of luck on that. It really is something that you do need to take care of, because it will be can cause a lot more problems. It can bring the bugs in from all over the place, and certainly after a while can start deteriorating. Joe, we certainly we're going to have to come up with a today's homeowner foundation exhaust fan, don't we? I mean,
yeah, we should. Yeah, the Joe and Danny fan. Oh, I'm sorry, the Danny and Joe fan.
Yeah. Let's go right back to the hotline right now. Thomas is on the line with a very interesting question. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me today. I have been looking into it for about a year or so, off and on, about the UV light for an air conditioning system.
Okay.
Lots of ins and outs with it, where you place it, which kind you get, what it's going to do, and just wanted some advice on that.
Boy, it really gets confusing on many subjects when you start doing a little, internet browsing here and there. And some people will be absolutely it's great, or no, it's not so great. It does kind of get confusing. And we've dealt with this a lot. I actually had one installed at my house a few years back, and I did all of the reading on it, and I was a little surprised that it cost as much as it did. And I can't say I noticed any difference, of course. I mean, the family, our family, pretty healthy, really didn't get sick very much and all. And but statistically and scientifically, it seems like it works pretty well. Joe, I know that you've followed this a lot and dealt with a lot of these UV lights. What do you think?
Yeah, Thomas, if the question is, do UV lights make for cleaner indoor air? They absolutely do, because it's been proven through generations that UV lights, because they originally were used in hospitals for sterilization, and then at some point someone came up with the idea of putting them into air conditioners to clean the air. And UV light can eliminate fungus and bacteria and germs and viruses and even pathogens. So there is scientific proof that it does work. Now, it's like anything else, it has to be installed correctly. You have to have the right intensity of the light, because lights come in different intensities. And some systems need more than one light. So what it basically comes down to, the effectiveness comes down to the installer and the product. And you've probably done more research if you've spent the year looking at it than I have. So you may be aware of those factors. There is a company that has one of the very best ones called BioShield. And you can look them up, and they probably have a lot of information on their website on how they're made, how they work, and how they get installed properly. So I would check out BioShield, and and that might steer you in the right direction. And most manufacturers would have a link to contractors in your area that have been qualified somehow. Maybe they took a class, online class, or they learned how to install these things properly.
All right, yeah, I looked a little bit as far as placement, and saw that one of the main places as far as effectiveness is right above the peak of the A coil, as far as cleaning that coil. And then also, maybe down around the return air underneath that. But then you get into whether it's cleaning the air, you've got to look at CFM and how, like I said, how intense the light was to see if it was going to make any effect with the air flowing past it.
Right. Those are the two types of UV lights you just mentioned. One's called coil sterilization, which looks kind of like a stick. And then there's air sterilization. So one right on each end of the system. And that would be a question for a contractor. And if he's not sure what they are, then I would call somebody else. Right?
Well, good, Thomas. I hope this helps a little bit. There is a lot of confusing information out there, but they do work, and certainly will make for a healthier environment inside your home.
All right. Well, I appreciate the advice today.
Okay, our pleasure. Have a great weekend, Thomas.
How much are those systems, by the way? I've never installed one.
I think the one I got was about $450. We also get a lot of emails, and you can send us an email at todayshomeowner.com/ask. That's what Barbara did from Colorado. She says, "Hi, Danny. I listen to your radio show every week, and I love it." Well, thank you very much, Barbara. I hope you can help us with this ongoing problem. 6 years ago, I painted the interior of my home because the room smelled of old, stale cigarette smoke. I first scrubbed the walls and ceiling really well with TSP that you recommend a lot, and then primed and painted all of the surfaces. Now, 6 years later, I can start smelling that old smell again. Help. What can I do? Joe,
Wow.
isn't that disheartening? Because that's the one thing. If you buy a house and someone has been in there for years and years and years smoking, it gets everywhere. I mean, that smoke is going to filter into every little crack and crevice and molding and inside door jam. I mean, it's just one of those things.
Especially fabrics,
fabric, especially fabric. And I'm not sure what to tell Barbara other than I've been intrigued by these charcoal filters that are available now that are guaranteed that, to really eliminate a lot of odors. We talk about pet odors, we talk about cigarette odors and things like that. I would suggest Barbara try one of the it's electrostatic charcoal filter. I know Filtrete from 3M has one. I would certainly try that and see what it does. What are some other suggestions that you might have?
Yeah, it is surprising that the odors returned after 6 years, but that does prove that when she painted and primed, that the primer did work. I'm not sure why it stopped working, but what I would recommend is cleaning the walls really well again and applying a much better primer. You have to apply a restoration primer. That's what it's sold as. There's a company called Kilz, K-I-L-Z, that makes one, and it's simply called that, restoration primer. It's pretty expensive. It's about $35 a gallon, but that's specifically designed to hide stains, really unsightly stains, and odors. So that's what I would recommend. And if she got 6 years out of what I'm assuming was a standard primer, then she might get 12 years out of, or even longer, perhaps, out of this restoration primer.
Right. And I think one of the other things, even though neither of us are big fans of recommending cleaning ductwork, it might be something for a real reputable company to come in and clean your return air plenum and to make sure that that's as clean and deodorized as it can be. And then also any of the ductwork that they can access. That may be where some of those smells are lingering around. So you want to make sure you check that out. Let me grab another email here real quick. Jane from another one from Colorado. We have a west-facing wood deck that's incredibly hot and sunny throughout summer and spring. What creative ways would you recommend for blocking the sun and creating more shade? Thank you for any suggestion. Well, I've seen a lot of people using the triangular shape shade cloths. They're very inexpensive. It's something that you can put a little hook on your fascia board or a couple hooks and then just extend it out and provide some great shade. That certainly helps. But it also strategically planting the right plant can also help a lot.
Yeah, they're called shade sails, I think, those triangular. And you can position them anywhere, and you can very easily move them. Yeah, a nice tall plant, an evergreen. And if you hang any fabric outdoors, especially if it's going to be anywhere near a grill, but even if it's not, you want to make sure it's protected. So I would soak it in 3M Scotch Guard. They have an upholstery product, upholstery protector. That'll keep it from fading, and also might make, if it has a fire retardant, it'll make it much more fire resistant.
Okay, I want to make sure we got that email in, but right now I want to make sure we get our simple solution in this hour. Joe, what do you have?
Okay, Danny, here's a simple yet effective way to prevent eyeglasses or safety glasses from fogging up when they're worn with a dust mask. All right, so first of all, a lot of people wear masks these days, but anytime you're working around, on a woodworking project, indoors or out, it doesn't matter. You should always protect your breathing, your lungs with a dust mask of some sort. But we also recommend always wearing safety glasses. So how do you prevent them? And they fog up, it seems like in some cases, almost instantaneously. So I've tried this, and it actually works. What you do is you coat the inside and outside of both lenses with shaving cream. Just roll a shaving cream, squirt a big dab of it on the outside and inside. Then with your fingertips, just rub the cream onto the lenses for several seconds. Then rinse under cold water, dry them, and put them on. I've tried this, and they've remained fog-free for probably 4 to 5 hours, something like that. And it doesn't last forever, but if you do that every time you put on the glasses, first of all, you might go through a lot more shaving cream, but you won't get your glasses all fogged up. So definitely try that because it does work.
Oh, that's a great, simple solution. I can tell people, I guarantee you people right now are filing that away to use because, again, people are wearing a lot of glasses, a lot of masks, and then the glasses along with it. That's a very frustrating thing. And we want to remind you how you can reach out to us. There's a lot of different ways, actually. Emailing todayshomeowner.com/ask, and certainly on the hotline, the Today's Homeowner hotline, 800-946-4420. Each week we get a lot of calls on there. We try to handle each and every one of them. Sometimes people don't leave their name or contact information, but we want to make sure you get the right answers. Here's a few of those.
I'm a college student, and I'm moving into a house that I'm renting, and I'm wondering, do you have any tips for a college student who wants to make the place look reasonably respectable, but who doesn't have a lot of money?
Okay, well,
reasonably respectable. I like that term.
I like that. We have a few suggestions for you. Actually, this reminds me of one of our television shows that we did a couple years ago, actually involving my middle daughter and 2 of her roommates that wanted to do the same thing. They had a nice little house, but they wanted to, add a few things here and there, but they didn't want to, invest in this house when they knew they would be moving soon. So here's what they did. A couple things that you could do as well. Ceiling fans. If you want to take the light fixture down that you have maybe in your bedroom and put a ceiling fan on, we have all the directions you need online at todayshomeowner.com. That's a great way to go. And then just take that fan box when you buy your fan, and then put the light fixture that you take down, carefully pack it right in there because you'll want to change that back out when you leave the house. Joe, another thing that they did that I thought was great is
what's that?
Installing one of the wireless enabled combination locks.
Oh, right.
They took the
electronic deadbolt.
Yeah, you never know on a rental house how many people have keys to your house, and so they removed that and they put one in. They all shared the cost of it, and it worked just perfectly. So many times they were able to, when someone was coming over to do some work, they were able to get a text or a phone call from them, and then remotely able to open the door or close the door, lock and unlock. So
and they typically fit right into the existing deadbolt hole, so you don't have to alter the door at all. You can install the electronic one, and when you move out, just put the old one back.
It was amazingly easy. And also something a lot of people might not be aware of is removable wallpaper. There's wallpaper that you can actually put right on the wall. Looks great. Maybe it's an accent wall that you want to establish. And then when you're ready to go, you can peel it right off and take it with you. So there's several things, and I would encourage you to go to todayshomeowner.com and check out that rental house improvement show, and you'll be able to get a number of other ideas. Let's go back to the line and get another call.
We need to have our front porch railing replaced. I would like to replace it with some type of materials that we don't ever have to replace it again. So if you can help us.
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't know if I can recommend a product that you never, ever have to replace, but I have a really good recommendation, and that is not to use wood, but to use some sort of either composite or aluminum railing. And in fact, our friends at Trex introduced 3 new railing systems, and they have both aluminum and composite. So I'd go to Trex.com. I think the 3 lines it's like Signature, Transcend, and then I think the aluminum one is Select, or I'm not sure which one's the aluminum, but anyway, they have the 3 lines: Signature, Transcend, and Select, and that's what I would recommend.
I wanted to know, can you take an 8-foot ceiling and turn it into a 9-foot ceiling? Thank you.
Okay. Well, I've done something similar to this many, many times in altering existing ceilings. It depends on exactly what's in the attic above it. Now, if there's things like air conditioning systems, if it's just ductwork, no problem. If it's the actual equipment, that's a little more of a challenge, and certainly leads when you have more challenges, that means it's a lot more expensive. But in many cases, you can build the walls straight up, but it does entail a lot of expense because you're going to be rerouting wires. You're not only going to extend the ceiling up, that means your walls have to be extended up. So it can be quite a bit of work for just that little bit of difference. We have vaulted a lot of ceilings or create pocket ceilings within there, but I would really get an experienced remodeling contractor to come out and take a look at it. It's something that they've routinely done, and they can tell you if it's worth doing and exactly what it would take. And of course, then you can repaint the room after everything's done, maybe add a little crown molding to enhance it even more. And you can have a pretty good impact. Hopefully, there's not much lingering up above there, still allow you to do that. Let's go to Maine right now. Tina's on the phone with a question about flies. Boy, this is the time of year for it. Tina, welcome to the show.
Thank you. My question is, we moved into our home last summer, and we noticed almost immediately how many flies were in this house. And we hired a pest control person in April at a neighbor's recommendation. And to help us with the flies, and we noticed fast results. But I'm just wondering if we can do the pest control ourselves. It's quite expensive, and I was wondering if it's possible for me to purchase what they use, and just do it myself.
Yeah, that's a common question a lot of people have about controlling some of the pests around the home. Do you have any idea what they did? How did they treat it? Was it just a perimeter spray, or did they put any type of device inside the home? Do you know how they attacked it?
Yes, no device. What they did was they sprayed windows. I don't believe they did a perimeter spray because at that time we had snow.
Oh, okay.
So
I see. All right. Well, there's a lot of different methods out there. Of course, the age-old problems. I live down in the South, and so during the summer, so many people leaving their doors and windows open. I've seen all kinds of gadgets and home remedies for flies. And Joe, I remember us talking about this quite a while. It seemed like you told a story about a buddy of yours down in Miami that had kind of a unique thing. What was that?
Yeah, Tina, this is I've not tried this. A buddy of mine tried it. Now, this worked for outdoor flies, and I think it works outside because it has to be in the sun, but he hung a clear plastic bag full of water from a string or a wire, whatever it was, off the gutter of his house near where he was seeing lots of flies, and the flies just disappeared. And it had something to do with the light refraction from the sun shining through the water and the plastic. I'm not sure why that bothered flies, but that would work outside. And your flies are indoors, right? So now you said you had this fly problem during the winter when there was snow on the ground. Is that correct?
Well, we started seeing them when it started warming up, and then we got another snow.
Right.
These are cluster flies, which actually come out of the ground.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you. Right. Because house flies and cluster flies are actually different, and you have to treat them differently. And for people who aren't aware, if you don't know the difference, the house flies are about a 1/4 inch long, and the cluster flies, and sometimes they're called attic flies for some reason, they're slightly longer. And the real difference is that house flies, when they're at rest, their wings do not overlap. And with cluster flies, the wings overlap. So that's how you can tell the difference, because you do have to treat them differently. And the reason you noticed an immediate improvement when the pest control person came out is that he just sprayed poison and killed them all. And the one that didn't get exposed to the poison flew away and hid away, whatever, and they came out afterwards. So that's the only downside of a contact remedy like that. If you're not contacting the fly, it is precisely with in this case, a spray of some sort, you're not going to kill them. So for a cluster fly, I think you need to, there's one indoor easy recipe that I use. In a small bowl, you mix a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar, 1 tablespoon of sugar, and a few squirts of liquid dish soap, and just leave it out, and you can use several of these. What happens is the flies are attracted by the sugar and the vinegar, and they get stuck by the soap, and they'll just die off. So you could try that. I mean, otherwise, the only other thing to do is just buy some insecticide and spray around wherever you see them.
Well, that should be a nice little mixture to make make a little more pleasant inside the house there. And that recipe that Joe just mentioned, that formula, will be listed on the radio page. All you have to do is go to todayshomeowner.com and click on Listen, and that'll be there waiting on you so that you can feel all of that out. Now it's time for the Today's Homeowner podcast question of the week. This comes from Pennsylvania. Dale asked, we have a nice patio next to our home. Last year, we had some weeds in the paver joints. I scraped all the weeds out of there and the soil and then put in poly sand or polymeric sand in there to fill up all of the gaps. Now, this year, I'm disappointed to see even more weeds. What is the best way to maintain our patio? Joe, it seems like when you get the sand in there properly, you shouldn't have any problem. When we hate to recommend anyone to use any of the chemical weed killers, but you hate to do that. I'll tell you what Chelsea uses all the time on some of the weeds that pop up in her gravel driveway. Just takes the old tea kettle and gets the boiling water on it and then pours it directly on it. It kills them instantly, and then you can pluck them right out.
Well, we were talking last week about, I don't think either one of us have used this tool, but they do make a propane torch specifically designed for killing weeds. And I guess you just walk around and just the intense heat, much like the boiling water, I guess, just kills them, kills the roots and all. The other thing you could try is baking soda. Just sprinkle baking soda generously all over. He doesn't have to do the whole patio, but all over where he sees weeds, and then sweep it into the joints, and then spray it down with a little water. Yeah. And the baking soda will kill the weeds as well. If you do it on after a heavy rain, you could skip the watering, I guess, just after it, as long as it's wet, and you sprinkle down the baking soda. So she can try that. Who's this? Dale. Dale can try that as well.
Yeah, this is certainly the time of the year where those weeds start popping up everywhere. There's a lot of ways that you can solve those problems without having to just spray some of the chemicals that are under question right now. So hopefully that'll help you, Dale, and be able to have a nice, enjoyable patio surface out there. So that was our podcast question of the week. If you'd like to send us a question, you can do so by going to todayshomeowner.com/podcast. We really appreciate all of the questions that come in, and we're going to try to stay on top of those and answer every single one of them. We also appreciate all the great reviews we're getting in the different areas that you may download your podcast. And we appreciate you being with us each and every week here on the Today's Homeowner Podcast. I'm Danny Lipford, along with Joe Truini. We'll see you next week.